number 5 here. Principle number 5. Take us through it.
All right. So we're staying the night. We just had an epic hike. We're feeling good, feeling like we want to celebrate a little bit. And so we're talking about having a campfire. But that depends on the rules and the regulations. So when we were planning ahead and preparing, we looked up those rules and regulations. And do you know what they said, James?
Yes, campfires have to be in designated areas. They have to be below 3,500 feet and in designated campsites, which in the High Peaks Wilderness, they are not allowed.
Exactly. Yeah. So since a campfire is not going to be allowed for us on this hike, then we're going to go ahead and adhere to those rules and regulations. If a campfire was allowed, then we would go ahead and make sure that we're doing everything we're doing to create a safe campfire that we can control. So when we talk about creating our lessening our impacts when we do have campfires, we want to use those existing fire rings, as you mentioned, and then making sure that we're choosing wood that is dead. So it is not living down. It's already on the ground, because you can still have wood that is standing and dead, such as snags. Dinky. So we recommend using campfire wood that is about the size from your wrist to in your forearm. And then distance. So not just clearing out a whole area in areas where you can collect firewood.
Yeah, in a lot of temperate environments, downed woody debris makes up 40% of the habitat and food for a lot of species. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to not deplete all the wood in that area. So making sure that we're going far and wide to collect our firewood. And then also, this also takes us back to principle 4 when we think about leaving what we find, making sure that, if we are having a fire, making sure that, the wood is locally sourced and that we're not transporting any firewood from somewhere else, so that we're not bringing in something that might potentially be disruptive to the local ecosystem there.
Yeah, it's very nice to not just pick a campsite dry. There's plenty of places in the ADK where you can go camping, or anywhere you live where you're listening in the outdoors, you can go camping. Definitely don't want to pick a whole area dry for that exact reason. That makes perfect sense. So now we're camping at night. It's been a lovely night. We didn't have a campfire, but that's okay. It's the middle of the summertime. We didn't really need one anyways. And now take us to number 6. Let's just say something has come into our campsite. So take us through number 6.
Okay, so a deer is coming into our campsite, and we're really excited, and we kind of want to give it some space though, but we also want to get a photo. So what do you think, James? Should we get a little closer to get a photo, or should we kind of back up and give it some more space?
I think we should back up and give it some more space and respect the wildlife, because we are guests in their home.
Yeah, exactly. So a fun tip that we always teach is something called the thumb trick. And it's a great tool that you can teach kids but we actually practice it. Dave and I practice it all the time, just on our own. So that's where you can put your arm out straight, put your thumb up, close or cover one eye, and do your best to cover the animal with your thumb. And if you can still see it behind your thumb, that means that you're too close and you need to back away. So I definitely encourage you to rewind that real quick and practice that at home.
That's a great little technique. I like that.
Yeah,
very useful.
Yeah, super useful and really helpful. We honestly use it. We teach it to kids all the time, but also to, all types of different land managers, and we use it ourselves. But generally, when we talk about, giving animals space, it's really, we want to be respecting them, because even if they come in closer to you, such as in this instance, if they're coming closer into our camp, they might not necessarily they might still be stressed. They might still be having a stress response to humans being close, even if it seems like they're being really chill. So there's a couple of different things that we think about. We want to make sure that we're storing our food and trash securely, so that we're not unintentionally or inadvertently feeding wildlife, because if you do see animals coming into your campsite, there's a good chance that they've been food conditioned to expect food to be in that area due to other people leaving food behind before. So doing our best to ensure that we pack everything out and that we're storing our food and trash securely while we're out camping in an area, and even out while we're out a hike. We've been hiking down in the Grand Canyon, and I've had a squirrel come and start digging in my backpack as I'm sitting next to it. So I'm sure we've all had those experiences, but doing what we can to prevent that, because when animals get closer into human spaces, they can actually eventually it can lead to putting those animals in danger, because if their stress response is heightened, it can lead to altered behavior, which can lead to them actually becoming more dangerous, and has even led to animals needing to be relocated or put down and things like that we really don't want to see. So it's on all of us humans to make sure that we keep that wildlife safe.
Yeah, and since we're camping overnight, specifically in the high peaks, when we were planning ahead and preparing, what did we learn was the best way to store our food?
Oh, good question.
In a bear canister.
That's right. Yeah. So in a lot of places, we recommend if you have access to a bear canister, it's one of the best ways that you can keep your food and trash and other smellables secure. But specifically in the high peaks, it is mandatory that you have a bear canister if you are going overnight.
And a super cool thing is that at ADK, and I'm not sure if other places as well, but they offer you to rent a bear canister. So that's something that you can find out in advance. And that was a great point to think about during Plan Ahead and Prepare as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can rent them at the lodge, and I think EMS rents them too in Lake Placid, and I'm pretty sure the Mountaineer does too. There's lots of places in the High Peaks area, Keene, Lake Placid, where you can rent the canister. And yes, you do have to have that to be overnight, camping overnight. And it's just it's a good practice in general. And also too, with bear canisters, learning how to actually store the food in the bear canister. So don't just fire your food into the bear canister and put it right next to your pillow. That's kind of defeating the purpose of what you're doing. Make sure you put it. I believe is it 50 feet from your campsite on the ground in the woods? Is that? Take me through the exact way to store food in a bear canister. That's what I've done personally.
Yeah. So everywhere, always check with what the local regulations recommend and suggest. What we recommend is something we call the Bermuda Triangle. And so you have one area where you do all of your cooking, your cleaning, etc. And that, because you might, you're going to do your best to not make a mess, but you might inadvertently accidentally drop some crumbs or some stuff, from when you're cooking. And so that area might smell. And so you want to make sure that you're not sleeping near that area or storing your food there, because that area might attract animals. So what we recommend is maybe going around about 150 to 200 feet from there and placing your bear canister. And then in a triangulation from there, another 200 feet at the other corner, that's where you would sleep. So that way you're giving yourself plenty of space between the area where you cooked and then where your food and smellables are actually stored. So that way you're doing your best to deter any bears or other animals from getting into that food.
Makes perfect sense. I like that name too. Did you coin that name?
I did not coin that name.
I like it though. It's nice.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
Helps us remember. Yeah, Bermuda Triangle.
Absolutely, belongs on a T-shirt.
And so it looks like those are our recommendations at the Leave No Trace Center. It looks like according to the DEC in the Adirondacks, they recommend at least 100 feet from your campsite. So regulations are going to vary a little bit, but the further the better.
Yeah, totally. So don't put the bear canister in your sleeping bag. I have heard that so many times, and it just boggles my mind. I mean, if you were to wake up and there's a bear sniffing at your toes, I mean, my God, I don't want to be in that situation. But yeah, it always kind of shocks me when I hear those, and I hear it. My God, I hear it more than you would expect, that's where people put their bear canisters, or they put it behind their pillow, which would be even worse if the bear's at your face.
gosh. Yeah, totally. But that's the thing. That's why Leave No Trace exists as an organization, right? Is to offer this education, because we're all coming from different places and experiences and backgrounds within our knowledge of, outdoor recreation and the natural world. And so it's really important to have these conversations and because we're all coming from a different place within our learning.
Sure. All right. So we had a great night camping, and now take us to the final principle of Leave No Trace, number 7, which is probably basically the golden rule. You could think about it more or less, but take us through number 7.
All right. So we're heading out. We're all hiking out, and there's the group of us with all of our gear, and we had a great night camping. And we have a hiker coming up, or a big group of hikers coming up the other way. What do you think? What should we do?
I don't know enough of this scenario. So if I'm hiking out, I'm leaving to go back home, and a big group of hikers is coming towards me. If I'm going down, we would already be camping now. So if I'm going down, I always say that the people coming up have the right of way. So I would step to the side. But yeah, I would just step to the side of the trail. Is that the correct response, or am I incorrect?
Yeah. So what we would that is.
Yes.
And what we would recommend is, especially if it's a big group like that, doing our best. If it's just the 3 of us, or even just one of us, we can probably make a lot less impacts, especially if we have to step off the trail. And right now, it's even more important, because we want to do our best that we're physically distancing from anybody else who's out here on the trail. And if we have our masks with us, making sure we're putting those on as well, because that, even from far down the trail, that can visually kind of, let the other people know it's like, oh, hey, I respect you. I'm going to do my best to, be respectful. And so then you can, make sure you're looking down, finding a durable surface that you can step onto. So if you can, find a rock or maybe some bare soil, so you're not stepping on some sensitive vegetation, and then get off that trail. And then that is going to be a really good way to not only stick to those durable surfaces, but then also be considerate of other visitors.
Yeah. And James, I love what you said about how number 7, be considerate of other visitors, is essentially that golden rule, because it's all about just doing what we can to be kind and give each other that benefit of the doubt. As I said, we're all in different places and spaces within our learning and our experiences and our backgrounds. And we at Leave No Trace really honor the fact that everybody's connection and experience to the outdoors is unique and personal. And it's really a job for all of us to ensure that the outdoors is a safe and inclusive space for everyone. So really doing what we can to put ourselves in each other's shoes and take that time to communicate and be kind to each other throughout our time, whether it's in our daily lives practicing Leave No Trace, or while we're out hiking that epic trail like we just did at Mt Marcy.
It was a great virtual hike. I loved it. The views were fantastic. I mean, they've been better in the past, but they were pretty good today.
That was epic. Yeah,
it really was. And yeah, I like to think of it as the golden rule, because we're all out there to experience and to enjoy the outdoors, and everyone is going to have different experiences and enjoy it in their own way. But I also think that there's a real kind of common sense foundation as to things that you are doing might not be enjoyable for the vast majority of people around you. It's pretty obvious to think, is what I'm doing going to disturb other people from also enjoying their hike the same way I don't want, them to disturb my hike? So I just feel like it's a real common sense thing. Be considerate of others, do to them what you want them to do to you, the golden rule. And I think that we can all benefit from it. And on top of that, however, I have a disclaimer. If you think hiking with a speaker blaring is not going to annoy people around you because it doesn't annoy you, you're incorrect. Just turn the speaker off. Put some earbuds in. Put some headphones in. That's a big pet peeve of mine, and I find it happens often. So I'm just kind of ranting because it's my podcast, but that's a big pet peeve of mine in particular, the speakers. It just drives me insane, because common sense, common courtesy says that most people are not out there to listen to your music. They're out there to listen to the sounds of the forest. So if you want to listen to music, great, have at it. Pop a headphone in.
Yeah, totally. That was actually another question that we had on the back burner to ask you about when talking about this. But yeah, that's a really important thing to be thinking about is just what are you going out to the outdoors for? What do you want to experience? And like, would you appreciate, other loud sounds? Depending on the area that you're in, it might vary, right? Some people's cultures and experiences within their families is that they've always had a connection to listening to music while in the outdoors. So if that's your thing, that's awesome. But finding that